And I guess we're coming up live. So, welcome to the stream. You can see that people have already pre-joined, which is delightful, and then we can get started pretty quick. So, as you can see here in front of me, we have the box, and I have not unpacked it, so I might have gotten a brick device. We just don't know. This is science. No, it's at least gonna be novel. Hey, Jonas. And if you're in the chat watching, don't hesitate to say hi. So this is the Raspberry Pi 400. I'm guessing the 400 number is a riff off of this being essentially a Pi 4, actually a Pi 4 compute module, pretty much, but laid out differently, and then built into a keyboard, much like an Amiga 400, I think. I'm not an Amiga enthusiast, so I might be butchering that. But I'm imagining that's why it's called Pi 400. So, looking at this machine, yeah, okay, that was mirrored. It should still provide the GPIO, that is the bread and butter of doing weird things with Raspberry Pis. A micro SD card slot. 2 micro HDMI, which is the worst port in existence because adapters. USB-C power, which should also be usable for gadget mode, which is what we use when we're doing one of these, and just have it connected to the computer for both power and so it can just do an SSH connection to the main machine. That's neat, but it's not going to be working yet because it hasn't been implemented on the Nerves end for the Pi 4. Then there's 2 USB, what's that say? It's upside down for me. 3.0. 1 USB 2.0 and gigabit Ethernet. And I'm guessing that's some kind of Kensington lock thing. Okay. Hey Marcel. Yeah, my entire office is a hardware nerd corner sometimes. So, yeah, if you were wondering what keyboard I'm using or mouse, you're seeing it now. So this is the Ergodox Moonlander, if you hadn't seen it before. They're neat. I'm liking them. And this is, what is it? A Logitech MX something or other. All right, but let's get to it. Hey McBull, hey Marcel, hey Need Sleep, and hey Norland. So I'm just gonna pull this off. Very 3D, immersive experience, don't you think? All right, so that looks like the bottom side. I am such a professional unboxer, you don't even know. Let's see. See if we can flip this. Box. Hey, Alex Newbie. Oh, front and center. This is the thing. So something I waited on before I ordered one of these was that I wanted them to release it with the Swedish keyboard, because if you're not a Swede, you might not recognize this area. There's also a bunch of other differences. It has knock-on effects across the keyboard, and it's a bit annoying to not have them because they're in our language. So, okay, yeah, this is the computer. Let's see. Yeah, it's a decent tappity tap. Firmish. So decent enough. Slight covering for the GPIO, which seems reasonable because many might be buying this without any plan to use the GPIO. Oh, it's spring loaded. And it came with a SanDisk 16 gig edge. Sure. So these are all the ports that we saw on the box. And you can, let's see. So you can see that it's thicker towards the back. That's the computer. This part contains computer. So, Pretty neat. Okay, so that's the device itself. And this is sort of the computer kit version because I didn't want to bother figuring out good chargers and stuff. So this is just a micro SD to SD card adapter. Useful sometimes. I do have a micro SD USB plug here that I can just use. So this is the official Raspberry Pi mouse, which I am not very likely to use right now. And then there's this. So this is the official power supply, which is probably half the reason I bought the sort of package, because then you get a proper power supply that works well with the Pi. So let's unwrap that one. All right. Seems long enough. I don't have that far to a power outlet. At least not a temporary one for this kind of thing. It's a little bit stiff. All right, so we have a power cable. I'll just plug that in over here. Excuse me while I make some noise. There we go. Hey Padjo. So like $100 equivalent was probably the cost. The thing I least need is probably this one, the official beginner's guide to Raspberry Pi. I'm glad they make one of these. That's probably great for the people it's intended for, but I'm just going to shove nerves on it and nothing else is going to be the same. So yeah, let's put that on the floor because I don't have table space for it. And this is the HDMI and the micro, oh, sorry. This is the HDMI to micro HDMI. Glad to have a fixed cable with that doesn't require adapters. I don't plan on plugging this thing in to a screen for this stream. I have ordered some more displays, so that might be something that happens later. So let's bring this one back. Now, if we just shove this in, we'll probably have what's called noobs on it, which is sort of an installer for Raspbian and other things. I don't particularly want to spend the time to install Raspbian and then use it without a screen. No, that doesn't sound like fun. But I want to put nerves on it pretty quick. So actually, does it have a power button? Does it have a power switch? Probably not. I might have to consult the manual on that. But it doesn't really matter for our needs. Let's pop out this SD card, this micro SD card. Let's figure out where my micro SD adapter is. There it is. Slot that in there. And transition time. Oh, yeah. There we go. So you can actually see the device. That's nice. So we're going to be doing nerves. So I figured I'd bring up the nerves website. And I'm like, yeah, I totally want to add agility to my IoT development cycle. I mean, they're not wrong. Nerves is a lot more agile than you typically experience doing IoT dev, I think. But marketing aside, I think we can start with the Nerves Livebook. Because if we just check out the main branch of that one. What is all this stuff I have here? Yeah, that's from the last stream. I guess we can stash that. I don't care to keep it. And oh, yeah. I'll just remove these. If anyone wants to recreate what I did on the last stream, they'll have to use the last stream, I guess. It's not really worth saving. Okay, the rootfs overlay fonts I don't care about. Now, let's actually go to the Nerves live book because it has good information. Because this will not connect, as I said, to gadget mode the way this would. So what that means is I need to tell it to connect to my Wi-Fi. I could also plug in an Ethernet cable, but let's do Wi-Fi. And just burn a new firmware with that information. So if you're using a Wi-Fi enabled device and want the Wi-Fi credentials to be written to the microSD card, initialize the microSD card like this. I'll just export these. Actually, oh right, I should download. I could download a specific firmware for this. That's probably the fastest approach. So let's do that. Because I like first step, I don't really need to put anything special on it. Nah, we can build our own. It's easy enough. So we have this cloned one. And we want to do this, but we want to do it for Pi 4. Then there's, oh, I barely remember this. It was a long time since last time I set up this kind of stuff. So I'm just gonna look for VintageNet, which is your typical VintageNet is the modern Nerves networking library. So we could do VintageNet quick configure via, yeah, that one looks about right. So let's jump to the application file. This reminds me, I owe someone my vimrc. Runtime kv get all quick configure So I wonder how I best inject them originally. I'm betting I could do something like this. So AG Nerves Wi-Fi. Yeah. So if we're not using the prepackaged firmware, we can still do this. Right? No, I'm not certain. So I guess the FW up here should really be, that's at the firmware burn step. Okay. We'll give that a shot, see how it goes. So we've exported the mix target. We do mix deps get to make sure we have all the dependencies for Pi 4. So now it's resolving the nerve system for the Pi 4. Could have done this while I was talking. There's actually one thing I would like to include. So let's this one. So this is an interesting library, and I will just throw the library in there so that we can then use it. So what this lets us do is react to keyboard presses, even though we're not going to be showing a terminal or display or anything. So yeah, it's going to be useful to have. I could probably use it on my local machine as well, because that's also a Linux machine. Okay. Let's get back to building this firmware. Just gonna double check I have exported that. Let's build some firmware. Let's hope it doesn't take too long. If you have questions or just want to say hi, feel free to do so. But absolutely let me know if you have any questions. I do keep an eye on the chat, and I like talking about this stuff. So if you're curious about it, it's very welcome to ask questions. Now this should have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth already, so no dongle required. So now this built us a piece of firmware. Oh, and then I could do mix burn, or I could do this sudo thing. Now I need to remember my SSID, because that's not something I keep top of mind. Let's see, where's my phone? No, it's noise, water bottles falling over, chaos. All right. Yeah. And don't worry, I will be exposing my SSID and my passphrase, but if someone really wants to abuse these, they will have to travel, which I'm not so worried about. So, and there's not a lot of sensitive stuff on this network. This is not my home network. This is my office network. But let's see. So one day I will have a network where the passphrase is passphrase, but that's not currently the case. This ID is kontoret, which means the office. The passphrase is very secret. And this should allow us to burn it, and then it will complain about not understanding which device to use. And rather than overwriting my my microphone interface, I will just go ahead and use DevSDC, which is the 16 gig card. Now we're pushing this firmware, and hopefully it bundled my SSID and my passphrase in there. Oh, the Raspberry Pi supports fairly large microSD cards, but even more fun is that because it now has USB 3.0 and some sort of PCIe stuff in there, you can actually connect a really fast adapter and get some NVMe SSDs or something connected, and then you'll have a faster experience for sure. All right, so the card has been burnt. Ideally, this will mean that this thing is ready to go. So I clicked it in. Let's bring down the cable of power. Let's see. And plug that in. Yeah, so far we're doing firmware. Now we're doing firmware on a physical card, but if this manages to connect to Wi-Fi when it starts. Are you starting? I don't know if you're starting. Can't tell. It did light up for a little bit. But if it manages to connect to my Wi-Fi, it should become available to connect to. You're kidding me. Aside from me not being able to type. Oh, it's using the wrong username probably. There we go. So we should be able to do a live book on this now too. I'm still sort of hesitant. Like, is this really the right thing? Are we really on? Am I connected to the right device? I believe I am. It's just that I get a little bit concerned when things work on the first attempt. That's always worrying. All right, let's see. Can I get if config? Yeah, it's on wireless. Yeah, so we should have input event. Yes, we do. So let's bring up the library again. So now we have nerves on the device. That was almost scarily straightforward. It just worked. Now, yeah, we can do input event dot enumerate, and that should tell us Raspberry Pi internal keyboard and Raspberry Pi internal keyboard. So there are two parts to the keyboard. That's fun. It provides two input event inputs. So this one can send all of these keys. And this one can send all of what looks like the media keys. Sweet. Then we should be able to listen to all of this. But I feel like I'm mostly invested in this one right now. So let's do input event.startLink. All right. And I hit a few keys. Then I type flush. Flush will output and consume all messages in the mailbox, or a number of messages in the mailbox of the current process. So because we started the input event in the IEX shell, all the messages that come from the hardware will be sent to our IEX shell. So here we're getting which keys we've pressed and whether they were. So EV key sends first the one that's probably pressed, and then, or if 0 is pressed, I don't know. Don't actually know the order. Let's just hit O and then J. And then I hit up because I forgot which keyboard I was using. Yeah, so 1 for pressed, 0 for depressed. Yeah. So this is what it takes to just, whoa, sorry, I just backed into my own lighting setup here. So, the connection to nerves closed. I wonder what that's about. So I wouldn't have been surprised that it shut down if it was powered off of the computer. It might have got less power than it needs, but this is on mains power. It restarted, which I don't know why. Let's grab ring logger. Actify. I don't think this shows the last one, but remove logger. Read. Just curious if there was some serious crash. I mean, it could be that the power supply glitched and like the actual wire wiggled or something. I don't know why it restarted, but it did restart. So that little kerfuffle aside, I mean, yeah, this just worked. So boom, lots of keys. Oh, I got a few double key hits as well. It's nice. So if I do Alt F4, what does that give me? It gave me a lot of holding Alt, like repeats. So this would be pressed down. I guess this would be held. The 2 here. Oh, this is EVMSC scan. I don't know exactly what that means. But yeah, I feel like this is just indication that it's being held. Cool. Oh, you can actually tell if these happened on the, I guess on the same scan. I don't exactly know how to interpret these. This is the same key hold. You can see these IDs. So I haven't screwed around with this before. Not in this depth. I played a bit with input events when I was trying to make a touch screen work better with, or a different touch screen work with Scenic, I think, or a mouse to work with Scenic, something like that. So I was familiar with the library in that sense, and I know it can do a bunch of things. Actually, something we can do, which I wasn't planning on, but why not? Sorry, knife time. So there's a small piece of plastic. I got myself an over fancy knife for my office because I do open some boxes here, not only on stream, and I felt like having one that was dedicated to the office. So now I have an office knife. All right, so this is the very fancy Raspberry Pi mouse. I really like how it looks, honestly. So just unwinding this thing. This is just because I want to show that we can plug in more hardware and how that works. So I don't know if we can subscribe to these attaching. No, I don't think so. But let's Yeah, exactly, Pajo. The knife is follow-up to exposing my Wi-Fi information. So if you connect here, know that I have a knife. That seems reasonable. PixArt USB optical mouse. Now I'm curious. PixArt. What's that? PixArt imaging. It is. And here we can see that it can send MSC scan. It can send an Everell. It can send button right, button middle. So let's start a link to this mouse here. The thing is, these mean that to some extent you can actually see what they will do, what you will get from. So a mouse, that's pretty limited information. But if you're looking for example, this joystick here demo, it says a bunch of sort of max min ranges. If you're dealing with a touch screen, you will find out a bunch about how those send their information. There's a power button here. Cool. All right, so we started listening to the mouse, moving it around, clicky, clicky, flush. So here we're seeing these Everell. So this is events saying there's been relative movement on this axis or these axes. So, I mean, I could do essentially anything I wanted off of this. Any mouse can provide events for this. So now I don't want to unplug my trackpad here. But actually, hold on. Be right back. Just gonna make some noise. So this is all Linux essentially, plus an Elixir library that does input event things. So let's bring in another mouse. So yeah, okay, scoot mouse there. Oh, sorry, the mouse wasn't in the picture. You have to tell me these things when I'm framing poorly. I have too many things to look at. So now I plugged in a weirdo Razer mouse. If I remember, if I have connected this one before, it's not to this device, but yeah, it provides a few different pieces. So we have the Razer Death Adder 2013 here. Death Adder, rah. So it's a mouse. It can send mouse scans and relative XY, relative wheel, buttons. And then it contains the power to send keyboard events. I imagine that's because you can program macros into it or something. I haven't ever used it. Consumer control. That's keyboard, and this is a consumer control, which means, oh, it can set your volume, I think. It can eject your CD, can open your bookmarks, can undo, it can World Wide Web. System control, it can power on and off the system, I guess. Sleep, wake up. Yeah, so essentially it just wants to have the capacity to do all the things. Because if you program macros into it that shut your computer down when you click, I guess that's fair play. And this just looks like another keyboard. So yeah, the event names should be fairly standard, I think. So I think you can probably create your own if you need to. but I've seen touchscreens produce relative XY and absolute XY, essentially. No, so we could track events from this death adder as well. So as you see, if there's anything special about this Raspberry Pi mouse, it's that it's very straightforward and simple compared to that one. Yeah. Now, I'm curious. Let's see, nerves, toggle, numlock. Actually, yeah. No, that's not helpful. Right. I just realized most Pi devices don't ship with a numlock in them in that way. All right, let's look at the samples. We can at least look at these. So this is the weather sample. We should have internet access, so this should probably work. So this is a weather report exposing that I am in Varberg, Sweden, but I'm open about that, so it's okay. It's not being prettily printed entirely because I wonder what happens here, because this should be monospace, right? Well, it's pretty cool weather output for terminal. So we can just do weather here. And it's very nice. But it's neat to see that it works in Livebook as well. So more than that, we have this Wi-Fi. I was thinking I was just wanting to check my own Wi-Fi settings. Oh, that one. Ah, right. I get confused because they remove the file you selected from the list. I think I want to send a PR on that or something. It's often confused me, actually. Oh, this is what I would have should have written to figure out what my setup was actually up to when everything worked and I was confused. So we can see here that it's connected to Kontoret. So that's, and this, if I wanted to check change my Wi-Fi, I could use this stuff. Oh, Livebook is so wild. This is in the web browser. I'm having documentation pop up for modules and functions. Oh, they're putting so much work into Livebook. It's ridiculous. I love it. Livebook samples. Okay, basics. I wonder if there's sys class LEDs. No, this I'm curious about. This might be things where I need to wire something up. Yeah, it is. I think so. Okay. I think there are some onboard LEDs I could possibly blink. Like, I would like to address these. Must be something on Pi 400 blink numlock. So like, I would want to do something with it over there, but actually something we should be able to do. Oh, sorry, just making a mess here. So let's look at this thing. This is gonna be the most awkward install ever. So this is the bonnet, the OLED bonnet, which I should Now the question is the orientation of these pins, honestly. But oh, it's not quite long enough, I would say. Because I do believe, yeah, they're not making good contact. Otherwise, there's no particular reason I couldn't install this on that. All right. Now, does Inky have a deeper... It does have a deeper GPIO header. So maybe that would actually work. Now, pulling these apart is terrifying a little bit. Like no, not buying that. As a connection, no. But the good news is I have ordered a GPIO extender for this, which for one thing should let me use that. And then in addition, I think I ordered the quick one, QWIC or something, which should allow me to follow Alexander Kutmaz's Nerves book on the weather station thing and just order those solder-free components, which I thought were neat. So then we could probably just, then the GPIO would be out here and we could just connect things to it. All right, but let's see. What's something I would want to do with this now? Considering I can't draw to a screen, I'm a little bit limited in that. But let's see. We should be able to try something interesting. I'm thinking about how far off I am from getting this little thing working with the gadget I was making it use. So I'm not sure if I have that one as working as it needs to be able to essentially I would like to run a live view, which would allow me to pick up those keyboard events. Now, there's a little bit of detail to running Phoenix on a Nerves device, and I've done most of that work with this one for a small project on that one. But I don't actually need to use this to run that project. Let's try something fun. Okay, broken pipe. Did it go down? All right. Anyway, let's unplug the big mouse from it. I hope it's not input events that is causing trouble. Connection reset by pair. I'm gonna reboot this sucker if that's the case. Fix yourself. Don't know what that was about. All right, let's see. Yeah, it's back. So now that's up and running, and if we then go to my calendar gadget project, actually let's, rather than export that, I want to export host for a little bit. So I can show you guys that project without everything needing to work. Right, calendar app, there we go. So, logger.configure level info. Let's just go there. Do I not have any of those set up right now? Maybe. Let's see, calendar app.repo. Oh, import ecto.query. Calendar app.repo.all from calendar dot calendar, I think. Yeah, so I haven't added a calendar to this, which is a little bit annoying because there's a secret I don't particularly want to share in that calendar. Now, I think I can get the public version of my calendar, which will be heavily redacted, and maybe that can be enough for demoing. So I'm building this for my helping me look at helping me pull down calendar events. Actually, let's just create a demo calendar. Create new calendar. Demo calendar. So now I'm doing this in a different window. You will have to excuse me. And I'm using the Google Calendar for it because I have not been transitioning away from Google and to that extent yet, though I would like to eventually. Make available to public. Now, that should mean I can get really, okay. Yeah, now I can get the secret address for that one. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So this is the secret calendar, a secret address of my very newly created public calendar. So should be harmless. And I will have to add an event that's sometime in the future today. Let's add that to demo calendar. Sample event, perfect name. There we go. So then I could create a C, which is a calendar app.calendar.change set. I think there's a change set in there. Oh, I can just go add, which probably takes a name, which can be sample, and it takes foo. Yeah. So now I should be able to do calendar dot get next event. C. No? Not surprising. Calendar app, get next event. All right. But oh, here we go. Look at that. I didn't even notice when the demo started working. So this is actually the most naive approach I've ever taken to mocking some hardware. So this is actually 212 by or 104 by 212 divs. So each pixel is a div colored with very hard-coded CSS. We can take a closer look at that if time allows. So this is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to pull the latest calendar. Now, so now we have that data at least. So now we have showed what that one does. Now, the firmware. So if we export there, we might also need to tell it not to try to start the inky display. Edit. Anyway. Did I already have one of those? No. Oh yeah, I do have it somewhere, don't I? There. Let's shut that one down. So, let's see. If I want to open this inky display, edit anyway. Cool. It has this thing where it can decide to start a real inky device. Actually, it can't, but it's supposed to. And I would rather it not do that right now. So let's try not to do that. Anything else I need to change? Well, I exported that. That probably means I need to mixsteps get to get the Raspberry Pi 4 system, which I'm thankfully have already downloaded from and have it cached. And I guess so. Now, if I'm pushing can I set the Wi-Fi thing? But just pushing, will it even remember my Wi-Fi thing? I'm a little bit uncertain about. It's actually been a fair while since I used a lot of nerves, so I'm a little bit uncertain about some of these details. Okay. Nerves, configure Wi-Fi. Let's see if this one just covers it quickly. VintageNet, config, VLAN, type. So I just want to make sure it has my Wi-Fi information, otherwise we can't access it, and that's super boring. So this should just be so I'm mostly copy and pasting here, or typing from the manual, as it were. So key management, WPA PSK probably. This is ID. Contour it. PSK. So this, oh no, not regulatory domain in US. I'm guessing the regulatory domain is EU. Two-character country code. Then it's probably SE. All right. This should allow us to build a firmware. Syntax error. No comma. Come on, guys. You're supposed to help me with this. No, you're not really here to check my work. And I'm a little bit hesitant if the XQ Lite is gonna work on this ARM device. I don't know. Don't have any idea, actually, honestly. I poked the SQLite, like the XQ Lite folks, a little bit about it, just because I got a scary warning. But it didn't stop the build, so I don't actually know what the outcome is, because I haven't gotten this running yet, and I should. So this was the scare warning, the yellow one. It's about the NIF. SQLite uses a NIF, which is just calling out to C code, because SQLite is built in C. And yeah. Building. All right, now we can should be able to do some of the cooler things here. We do mix firmware gen script. Yeah, override upload as sh. So now we should be able to do this to just push the new firmware over Wi-Fi instead of needing to plonk out the micro SD card. So this is one of the cooler things about nerves, because that can get super annoying otherwise. Yeah, and now it's probably rebooting the device, and hopefully it will come back up. I did give it the network information, but I mean, I could have screwed up in many ways. It shouldn't matter if the application crashes. The device should still turn on and connect to the internet. There we go, it's back. So let's see. I don't think I should use Livebook anymore to connect to it. Because I think we changed the username. There we go. So let's see, ringlogger.next. I expect to see that it has shut down the application. Yeah, there we go. There's all the failures. Could not make directory with home, Lovic, projects, calendar, gadget, calendar, app, no such follow directory. Yeah, I could see how that would not work. Did I really hard code ecto adapters? So it's trying to start the storage. It's failing sort of at setting up the database. If we just want to do some live view stuff for a little bit before we end, I could disable a lot of that because we don't need all it. So let's look at this. No? Oh, not calendar firmware. No? That's not. It still believes I opened it somewhere else, which is annoying. Okay, so we can remove the database. We can remove the inky part. We can remove the thing that pulls the calendar. Now we have a very straightforward system that should not have any issues setting up. We can also remove the database migrator, which was the part that failed. And then let's just make sure I've committed most of my previous work on this. Yeah, should be fine. I just want to make sure that I didn't overwrite anything that was actually useful. So we could do inputs. This is just the very first type of just a way to sort of get interactive with all of this. So so let's do input event.enumerate to get a list of devices in our live view assigns. And let's see, and let's handle input event device name device and the event. Right. So did I mention this was a rough and tumble project? Like, this is my template. This is a bunch of the stuff I did to print out pixels. Like, I went fast and not very carefully on this one, which is a fun way of coding. You should try it sometime. And again, if you have any questions or wonder about anything, let me know. I'm having fun. I hope everyone else is. So, starting out with that, I think we could do, let's make a nice little list here. Device. Let's see, what's the shape of the enumeration? I don't remember. So, yeah, okay, so device info. And that's at devices. Thanks, Brooklyn. Glad you're enjoying it. Looking forward to see where you take that podcast, by the way. It's there's good potential for trying to figure out how to make Elixir as newbie friendly as possible. It's not, I think it's going to be challenging because of some parts of sort of the ecosystem, but it's also, I think there's great potential in making Elixir super approachable. It just takes a sort of different tack than we've achieved so far. I don't think it's that people aren't doing it. I just think it takes a lot of effort to do it right, and people are definitely trying. All right, so this should let us list devices. Now, instead of going to my local, right, so now we've ripped out everything that made it break, hopefully. So we should be able to just build a new firmware. Ugh, that's no good. Undefined function inputs. Something like that. Not going to use it probably, but, or rather, not going to use it yet. Man, if you want to chat with someone about how newbies can get started with nerves, you should talk to Frank Hunleth. He's the person who put together like Nerves live book, most of it, and yeah, he does a lot on that. You should also probably talk to Bruce. Bruce does a lot of work with introducing people to the language. Me, I mostly do what I feel like when it comes to this. I've introduced a fair number of new people to Elixir, but I'm not sure I have a solution. Definitely not specifically for nerves. So Phoenix is what I've mostly been telling people about, but happy to have a chat at some point. It's something we can certainly do. Yeah, SSH nerves at nerves.local. Probably restarting, right? Ping. Go. It's up. Let's see what the ring logger says. Oh, all the applications have crashed again. Failed to start shell. Function library loader socket shell spec is undefined. Oh, didn't I fix this somehow? Like, I'm pretty sure I've told it that it shouldn't use the library loader. This is not the same thing. Okay, it might be the same issue. So let's go to the endpoint, see if that helps. See if we can get rid of that quickly. Oh, I'm apparently in the firmware one. Up there, there. Endpoint. Loading. I absolutely want none of this. All right. Firmware. Give me new firmware. So, oh, I think I logged in too fast. That's gonna go down. It hasn't. Wait, I just built the firmware. I didn't push it, did I? It's probably good to actually upload the firmware if you wanted to make a change. Just the thought. Thankfully, I have a little bit longer before I need to head out. Though I do owe Maggie Tate some show notes, which is, oh, not feeling it right now. But hey, sometimes you gotta make the pod as good as possible. Maggie spoils us, edits everything, does all the uploading. Destination host unreachable. And it's up. Yeech. Why is TZ data complaining a lot? It's annoying. Not important if it didn't crash anything. Okay. This might actually mean that it's up. Hey. It should probably be up because it didn't fail Let's see, it's looking for things. Yes, that's a read-only file system. Don't worry about it. Don't super care about that. So it brought the whole thing up. I guess I haven't gotten the application things yet. So because I have the calendar stuff in, I might be getting some extra time zone data things. So it's fine if that doesn't run for me. What I'm curious about is whether my Phoenix application is running, and I don't think it's doing that. So I'm guessing this TZ data is mostly complaining due to, or it's, I don't only think it's here because of me including a calendar thing. But I would have expected this to at least start, start the live view. Hold on. Is this one of those things? No, doesn't seem to be. All right, I'm not entirely sure why this doesn't give me, why this hasn't given me a web server. Which means I have more work to do before I get this app up and running. And we might have to wrap up, but I just want to see if there's one last chance to sort of figure it out. Runtime.exs. All right, and this would typically I think the config I'm looking for actually lives in the firmware now. So yeah, so it's a server true. And it does say that it will run on Nerves local, which means that I might not be able to access it via IP if there is an issue with. So I'm gonna start a Firefox browser. You might not be able to see it for now. If necessary, I will. No, that has a problem connecting as well. Okay, I think that's where we have to wrap for this time, but it's been fun to play around with this keyboard. I would have liked to integrate input events with the live view, but I don't have a good sort of Phoenix plus Nerves project set up right now, which is probably where I should start and then make it work. Just get Phoenix up and running on a Nerves device. I wonder, I don't think anyone's made a generator for that, but I'm not sure. So trying to set that up is a little bit finicky, just because what you put on the Nerves device ends up being a production release, essentially, which is different, really different in some ways from a development release or a development setup. So yeah, it's a little bit more involved, but it shouldn't be too hard. It's definitely learnable. And I would love to show more of that. I should poke the Nerves gang and see if there's a really good guide for getting Phoenix running on Nerves, because it seems like there should be, but I might not be familiar with it. All right. Thanks for watching. This was fun. Have a good weekend.